Hi, beautiful friends. Today I want to speak to parents who are navigating burnout in your conscious parenting journey. There's never been a time where we've had so many resources and mirrors that are showing us how we can do better and you know, like so many of us who are parents are constantly, you know, our eyes are open, our ears are open to new ways of doing things. The education system is before our eyes is completely shifting and changing in a way I've never seen. We want to educate our children the way that we want to navigate our lifestyles, the way that we want to eat and get food. All of it's changing. All of those really, really foundational things that have been taken for granted for a long time are changing. So with that, all of that opportunity, as parents, we're really taking on a lot. We're really embracing so many things. And I know for each family, it's a little bit different. Like we're all just sort of like taking on these pieces that feel the most important to us and sort of sharing resources along the way, right? That's really beautiful. That's going to continue. I'm here for that. But alongside that, what I see can happen, you know, and then we're also navigating like our children constantly evolving right in front of our eyes. We have partnership. Like with all of this, I want to speak to those moments where we reach burnout and where we reach moments of feeling really overwhelmed by it all. And what I have found to kind of steady things along so that I'm not reaching those points of burnout as often. The first thing I want to share is having a very clear vision for yourself on what are the top priorities in your family's life outside of the external pressures. I want to be clear before we jump into that. Where does that pressure come from? Priorities can be very seemingly mundane. Okay, so a priority for our family right now, like top 3 priorities, right, is Lincoln, my daughter. She is very interested in reading right now, so we're spending a lot of time on our literature units. Another priority is focusing on our teeth, on our family's teeth. So these can be things that are seemingly like, well, of course that should be a priority, but really putting your creative energy and your life force, right? That's magic. When you decide like, okay, getting everyone in the family, we're gonna have like an incredible dental hygiene protocol locked every morning, every evening. It's figured out and it's done. And I'm making the toothpaste and I'm doing all the things and I read the holistic dentist books, and that feels like this month, that's a huge priority. It was just, you know, so it can seem like when we ask our guidance, right? What are the priorities right now? It might feel like some of the things that come up are seemingly very mundane or seemingly like, well, of course that's what we're doing. But are you really putting your energy into it? I just thought I would add that as a side note, because we have this pressure that comes in from these other ideas about what it means to have a proper education, or you know, like a proper diet, or whatever all of those things are. There's so many factors that come in and want to shift things around for us. And sometimes the most loving thing to do when that starts to feel like the case is to just turn it off completely. Wherever that pressure is coming in from, maybe you're a part of a Facebook group for homeschooling moms, or some sort of curriculum, or something that, you know, it's reaching that place where it actually isn't nourishing the soil foundation to where your beautiful, you know, garden is growing, that you are tending to as the mother, as this family. It is very much this like feels like a woman in her garden, right? At the height of it, we are the creators of our Garden of Eden and the nurturers of all of the baby flowers and, you know, these little baby potentials, and all of it is really, I can feel the responsibility of that, and I know that you can too. And so if there is something that it's been too much, it's coming in too strong, you need to take a break, you know, from that curriculum, or from the homeschooling group that you're in, or from a Marco Polo group chat, or whatever it is, to communicate, to use your voice that you are taking a temporary break on wherever it is that you're getting good information. It's good inspiration. There's nothing wrong with the content. But when it comes to how we can live a very balanced life where we're not going to continue to come up against burnout, we need to be really careful about how much we're letting in, because it can quickly turn to feeling like pressure, to feel like we're not doing enough. And I have such a big wish and vision for all of you mothers and parents to not feel that way, to feel very relaxed, and you'll reach burnout if you don't feel like you can relax into what you've created for yourself. So I talk about this in my Conscious Motherhood course. We talk about a family creed and the values that we create within our family units, and how those really lead us. Okay, so I talk a lot more on on how you can practically do that in that Conscious Motherhood course. I also have a free course called Motherhood Muscle that is all linked below, so you can check those out and see if those are right for you to enroll in and dive deeper on how you can do that. Some other ways that burnout that we've really, as a family, that we've really navigated not getting burned out is our the very practical things that are happening all the time are set up as rhythms and routines. So for example, we have about, I want to say anywhere now between like 10 and 15 meals that we are mastering and repeating. and that is enough for us. And we know when it's time, when something starts to get a little old, or the seasons change and it's time to like take a few out that were very like winter heavy stews, and those get replaced with more fresh spring salads. You know, like we are conscious to kind of look at that about 4 times a year. But getting yourself in rhythms and routines that work for your family, that work for your body, bedtime routines, morning routines, all of those rhythms, how you make transitions. That's really important when you've got little ones. How do you transition from one part of the day to the next part of the day, or going to the car, or whatever it is, those transition times? How do you handle those transition moments? All of that, getting it really on autopilot for yourself so that you don't have to think too hard about what are we going to have for dinner, or what do we need to buy at the grocery store, because it's all it's been set up. That takes work up front to get that done, and it also takes you and your partner really on the same page about that, and how critically important it is that that is a priority. But it's going to help you a ton, one, with just being really nourished and feeling that sense of vitality, because you're getting all the nutrients and the good things that you need in your body, but also because then you're not needing to think so much about it. And, you know, meal inspiration can just sort of be like an inspiring evening activity occasionally when you want to try something new, and not something that you're like, oh my God, what are we going to have for dinner this week? So getting those rhythms and routines is really, really important, and I go into that in detail in my Conscious Motherhood Masterclass. The third thing and the final thing that I want to share with you is creating space for silence. I know that sounds really obvious, but getting this in your calendar ahead of time, and not in the moment where it's like, oh shoot, I don't know when it is the next time that I'm gonna be able to have some time for quiet. So I really encourage, especially those of you who are mothers and you're taking on the bulk of the parenting, it's really important that like every other month there is something for you that is going to give you prolonged silence, or prolonged, maybe you visit a sister or a relative that you're very close with, it's very nourishing for you, or that you go to the town next to you for an overnight stay where you can just have one night where, you know, you're away from it and you get to refresh yourself. And this doesn't need to cost a lot of money. But it needs to be something, if it's on your calendar, which of course I have a video on getting your calendar organized that you guys can check out, and how I do that. I also go very deeply into that again in the Conscious Motherhood course. But it's like, if it's there, if I know in 3.5 weeks, I'm gonna take a little camping trip for myself, or a weekend to visit a girlfriend, or whatever it is, if I know that that's on the calendar, it adds so much energy between now and then that I feel like I can give, because I know I have that time coming up for myself. This could be a massage. It doesn't have to be an overnight thing. This could be an afternoon where you go and get some body work done, and then you take yourself out to dinner just with yourself. That is so important. And this isn't something that I even think has to happen like all the time. I want to be very realistic with you. I think, you know, having something like once a month where it's just you, once a week where it's you and your partner, and you know, maybe every other month you're like really getting away for an overnight, that is going to, I mean, that really changes things as far as like what you feel like you're able to give. And I know that is very edgy for some women to feel like they can take an overnight away from their families, but I would really encourage you to try it, you know, and really sit with yourself and think about, if I got that really planned out for myself, if I knew that that was coming up and I had the time to make proper plans for it, and even make meals ahead if that would make you feel better, whatever it is to make you feel like you can totally relax in that time away, I want you to think about, what's the worst that could really happen? What's the absolute worst thing that could really happen? And then sit with that fear of like, okay, well, then you have a plan in place for if those worst fears were to happen, you know, you know what you would do, you know what the plan would be. And so these are just a few things that have helped my family tremendously, and not reaching that point of where when mom burns out, it is no fun. It is the worst. It is so awful. And so I just felt like it deserved its own video and something that we can talk about, because I know there's so many of you who struggle with that, and I completely understand. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments about this one, about burnout, and some of the ways that you have found like what works for you. That's going to be so helpful for other mothers to see. And because there's so many things that we could talk about that I haven't mentioned here. So I will chat with you in the comments. I hope you like and subscribe to this video, and I'll see you in the next video.